Leaders and their handshakes. How important is it? Well, it is incredibly important to establishing first impressions and gaining influence over time. One of the things that we're going to do is we're going to break down the now famous handshake between Trump and Benjamin Netanyahu at his Mar-a-Lago resort. One of the things that's very important that we understand is that handshakes can come in many different forms and styles. And so we're going to talk about how the handshake launches a first physical impression for somebody. That's why it's so important. We may hear you speak or see you from across the room, watch your body language, presentation, everything from the clothing to the way you carry yourself and walk. But this is the first physical impression we get. And it has a great ability to demonstrate control. Who's going to control this meeting, this interaction, this negotiation? It demonstrates power. I am powerful. You need to take me seriously. I'm going to help drive things forward and in the right direction. It also displays your intention and your focus. Hey, if I'm a distracted handshake and just working through, then I don't have much intention to really have positive results here, or I'm not going to focus on you in the moment, and that takes the person aback. Whereas if you lock eyes, give a good grip, execute some of these fundamentals we're going to see in the handshake, you're going to be able to display that. It also has your attitude and focus on the meeting and the person. So what are we here for versus what I'm going to do to focus on the person or the people that I'm introducing myself from. So there's kind of a dual prong there in the focus. And then, of course, it displays confidence and competence that, hey, I'm capable of carrying out this job and competence, and I'm confident I can do it as well. And the ultimate underlying thing is it is a gesture of respect, and it allows people to easily respect you if you have a nice handshake. So we're going to break down just one real version of the handshake, but there are several. The one that we're talking about today is the leadership and the influential handshake. I'm trying to make an impact on purpose, or I'm trying to assert that there is some type of dynamic here that needs to be understood. That is a leadership and an influential style handshake. The most common one that people really break down mechanics of and give tutorials on is going to be the business or professional handshake. Walking into a job interview, meeting a client for the first time, going to a business partner to establish a relationship. This business and professional handshake is the most commonly spoken of. But there's also a negotiation handshake, which is slightly different. It takes a whole different dynamic, and you'll see a little bit of that drip over into the leadership and influential one. Then there's the casual handshake, welcoming somebody into your home, seeing a buddy at Walmart and saying hi, or just an acquaintance, or maybe you go to a community event, or you go to some church or something like that, and you're shaking hands with people that you're familiar with and acquainted with. And then there's a friendly handshake. Those are the ones that are much more intimate. Some people come up with different grips and styles, and those are the things that you commonly see people play around with and invoke snapping and clapping and fist bumps, and all kinds of things can be involved. And those are still handshakes, and they're very important. And it's actually going to come into play here in just a little while as I break down some of what Trump has been doing with his handshakes and compare with a couple other leaders. So one thing I want to point out in the leadership and influential handshake is Trump always pulls it in tight. It's not Trump, it's other world leaders, but that's just the focus of today. So here's Mitt Romney, a former presidential candidate, another politician, and Trump keeps his handshakes always close at hand, and he always locks his eyes with the person. If you'll ever watch Trump, I would say 99% of all of his handshake interactions are a little longer than the average public would expect, and he also brings it in tight, he brings it in close. It's a firm handshake. Everyone knows they are being held on to by Donald Trump, and his eye contact, and watch that throughout the clip. So you can watch any of these clips, you can Google just a whole diverse things, and people are going to mock him and make fun of him, and that's fine. There's going to be naysayers on every side, and I'm not saying Trump has the world's perfect handshake, but it is a noticeable and powerful handshake that definitely deserves to be broken down. So here's one example of how to pull in a close handshake. He's demonstrating control and power here. Another one that Trump is really famous for, it's kind of two-pronged in this video. He does this little pull, this tug, or some people call it the jerk. And what he does is if somebody extends their hand really far away from you and there's not an object in the way, like a negotiating table or something like that, that's actually a sign of disrespect. So Trump, believe it or not, is being respectful by pulling you in close, saying, hey, this is a significant moment. And this is a Supreme Court justice that was nominated by Trump. And he pulls him in actually onto the balls of his toes and off balance. And he pulls him 2 or 3 times and locks eye contact with him. And here's the thing that's important. When you are asserting a leadership handshake, you are not doing it from just a dominant, embarrassing, you are my subordinate. That's not the case here. These are 3 co-equal branches of government. But what happens is Trump's eye contact stays the entire time, and Judge Kavanaugh eventually breaks eye contact with him. You'll see that with every interaction where Trump shakes hands, 99%, I should say. And then he does the pat on top, and we'll talk about that. There are power gestures that you can do. So Trump will usually extend his hand open and then grab and turn his hand into a dominant pose, and often he'll add a cusping or a hand pat, which is, again, is another sign of like, hey, I've got you, I'm in control. It can also be a friendly gesture, but it has some other meanings as well. A lot of world leaders, politicians, and influential people know exactly what this means. So here's another example of it. It is generally a principle to never shake hands sitting down. There are occurrences where this can happen, but I want to mention right here that Trump cannot do his usual, I'm pulling you in tight, I'm jerking you off balance or towards me to assert some control and dominance, and again, to bring you in closer to what a handshake is supposed to be. You're supposed to have bent arms in a handshake, not extended arms in a handshake. That is a formality that Trump engages with. So here's the leader of Japan, and we have a hand pat, right? So Trump extends his hand open, grabs, gives a firm handshake, and then reopens to pat on back, which is a gesture of friendship as well as a subtle sign of dominance. And this is in the White House. This is in Trump's territory, so this is absolutely appropriate. Now, here's another cool example. You'll see this again here in just a second because we're going to break down that now famous Benjamin Netanyahu greeting. But he shakes hands right here, and Trump almost always acknowledges the female, the woman companion first, usually gives them some type of hug, side hug, double cheek kiss, and oftentimes a handshake depending on the position and what the female, the woman will present to him. But on this one right here, he's giving a lovingly embrace and acknowledging, and in this video he is smiling, and then the man steps up to shake hands, and he never breaks from acknowledging the woman, and he takes the man and he pulls his hand in tight, firm grip, and pulls the guy who is reaching for him into a closer proximity. I'm bringing you into my bubble. That's power and both warming friendship. And Trump locks eyes with him, and both parties end up looking away from him first. So that is a leadership and influential handshake. Those people will never forget this. Now, there are opportunities, like I said, when you sit down, when he was in the White House with Japan, they were seated in chairs, and they were doing a photo op, and they had just finished talking. Here's another photo op opportunity. So what would happen is you would turn and face the cameras, and this would cause Trump to do an awkward stretch across his body. He does not allow that to happen. That would take him off balance. That would make him look weak. That would make him look like he was pulled and being dominated by Chris Christie, who is in a much lower rung of the political spectrum. So Trump turns, keeps his hand tight in front of basically his stomach and belly button, and Chris Christie has to slowly extend his arm in this video. Trump breaks eye contact first on this one because, one, Chris Christie had already broken it, and he turns to address the crowd and begins speaking, and he's turning for a photo op. So that's something as a leader that if you're going to take photos at a welcoming ceremony, a ribbon cutting or something like that, and you're going to shake hands and turn towards the camera, if you're the cross-armed person, you really want to pull that back in and make that person step to you. Chris Christie had to take a little side step and then turn toward the camera, and you can make the first address to the camera. So if you're going to break eye contact first, it needs to be for a purpose during the handshake. And handshakes are always more awkward and long in leadership positions because you're looking for that photo op opportunity. They made fun of one that lasted 19 seconds with the Japanese prime minister there. They said, oh, that was a 19-second handshake. Well, of course it was. If you watch the video, they're yelling, turn this way, look here, look this way, look at each other, look at us, look at each other, look at us. And Trump even turns to the prime minister and says, what did they just say? Oh, they want you to look at me now. Oh, so they look back at you, and he does the tap. So this is a very responsive leader holding a dominant position for up to 19 seconds. That's pretty impressive. I want to bring you up a couple of videos now and take a look at some of these handshakes. Now, here's one right here. I'm not a huge fan of the guy, Justin Trudeau, but he does a great job giving a wonderful professional handshake. Almost always, he's on the upper level of handshakes. He's a tall man. He's a good-looking man. He's in shape. So he is very well presented as a leader, and he also has prepared himself for the handshake with Donald Trump. So watch what he does in this video. It's called the post. So if somebody pulls, you can post, and it looks like you're giving a gentle tap on their shoulder, and somebody will reciprocate. And so this is a really great boundary that the two of them pull in, because Justin Trudeau tries to pull Trump in as well, and they both post. So watch this little 7-second video and find out. He extends his hand, neutral hand grip. They do that. They're both making prolonged eye contact. Justin Trudeau dips down. Trump addresses the camera. They both smile. What you guys need to do is go watch this clip over and over again and watch the body mechanics and the posturing and the little gesturing in there. Both did a great job. There's a wonderful famous freeze frame of Justin Trudeau on, I think it's BBC, has the video where he's grabbing this and his chin is pulled forward. You can see him straining to resist Trump's firm handshake, which, again, great job. Justin Trudeau, I am not a fan of his, but he did a great job giving a world-class, literally two world leaders, a world-class handshake in this example. So I really want to commend him on that one, even though I commend him on almost nothing else. And then the other one I want to pull up is I want a comparison with you guys on this one right here, okay? So this is from just the other day. And this is another, why did I get small? This is another Netanyahu greeting from the same day as Trump. So watch this one for me, would you? Extends her hand pretty far. Netanyahu keeps his hand close. A little bit of a limp arm her. If you notice, her arm was shaking. This is what I would rate for Kamala Harris a good business handshake. But now she's an influential world leader. She's a presidential nominee in just a few days, most likely, unless something changes. And she gives a handshake where she's the one being shaken. Do you see that? She's the one being shaken. Good eye contact, but she breaks eye contact 2 or 3 times and then immediately postures, listens for the press and for cues for her to do that. So she needs to strengthen that up. She's going to be on the world stage. She needs to grip, pull in, or not be pulled. And she doesn't need to extend her arm so far in the beginning. So I'm going to rate that like a C plus B minus handshake because she's on the world stage. Now, let's go ahead and get my face out of the way and pull this one. Here's the famous one we've all been waiting for, the big handshake from the other day. And this comes into a friendly handshake on the world stage. And I have no better way to call it than what I call the homie hug. Okay, and this is actually recognized by the internet as the homie handshake. 2 friends meeting and ultimately embracing. So watch this one. First, he greets the wife, double kiss on the cheek, very respectful, reaches for Benjamin Netanyahu, pulls him in. Benjamin Netanyahu appropriately responds, believe it or not, appropriately responds from that pull in with a pat on the back. Now, Trump can't reciprocate because he still has his arm around the wife in a very gracious greeting, but Trump's proper response would have been to both put their hands on each other's back. So I ask you, I challenge you in the crowd, is a handshake like this, okay? And I'm going to finish the video so you can actually see how their hands are gripped. Their hands were gripped, okay, just upward like that. They were up like this, almost in an arm wrestling grip, and Trump went in there to reach for him and switched it on him and then pulled him in. And the look on Benjamin Netanyahu's face after that was absolutely fantastic because he smiled and he says, I am welcomed as a friend here. And it conveyed the powerful leadership handshake as well. And they welcomed them to each other's home, and everything went exceedingly well because of the handshake that was presented. So this is an ideal way on how to do that. And then the other thing I want to do is pull my presentation back up here, if I can get out of all these little videos. And we will get ready to finish the video comparisons, okay? Benjamin Netanyahu then leaves, and Trump greets him with a photo opportunity handshake and then reaches through and places his hand on top. So Benjamin Netanyahu is smiling. He's happy to be there. He reports back on his own X Twitter account how wonderful the visit was. Trump asserts that last little bit of, hey, you're in my house. It has been a great meeting. Powerful handshake. Once again, Trump's closest to his body. His arm is crossed for the photo op, so he's got to be very aware of that position. And that hand on top right there is a huge gesture, and it was very light patting. Benjamin Netanyahu actually gives a little flinch of reciprocating back over to get a hand clasp in return. Absolutely appropriate, but he's got to keep his chest open for the photo op. So wonderful, wonderful job by Donald Trump. Guys, I think this is just a really fun thing to do. I'm going to give handshake breakdowns, first impression breakdowns, all kinds of leadership things that a young entrepreneur or just somebody in the world that may not know some of these etiquette or more subtle meetings can study and learn from. But this is the breakdown of that world-shaking handshake that Trump gave, and I mean that pun intended. So stay tuned for more, and we're going to have a lot more fun stuff going on for you. But these are some of these leadership analyses coming out. You guys stay tuned.